Hey guys, Brent Hull Build Show. Got another travel channel for growing master builders. They're guys who want to elevate their game. This time we're going to Colonial Williamsburg. It is the bomb. Come check it out today on the Build Show. Okay, so Colonial Williamsburg, an historical village, right? An historical place, a real place, okay? This was one of the early capitals of Virginia. There was Jamestown, there was Colonial Williamsburg, and then it moved to Richmond, and so it went away, it kind of died, it went quiet, okay? In the 1920s, Rockefeller was one of the ones who got behind an effort to rebuild Colonial Williamsburg. And so what we are seeing today is that effort started, almost 100 years ago, recreating American history. And there is no better place, there's no better museum village, place that you can go visit. There's people walking around in costume, in period dress, there's horses, they got all kinds of demonstrations. It's awesome, okay? So it's a great place to take the kids, a great place to take the family, and so you're gonna have a blast doing it. Remember, point of travel is to grow as a builder. The point of travel is to be inspired, and you will be inspired here. A lot of the buildings are original to that, and then some were brought in later. The governor's palace was actually completely rebuilt. It wasn't there, and they built it based on historic documents and records and things of what was there. Fisk-Kimball, the guy who discovered that Thomas Jefferson was the architect, was actually involved in that process of rebuilding the governor's palace, okay? And so this would have been where someone representing the king, okay, because we weren't a country yet, would have conducted business. And so the governor's palace was this awesome, beautifully inspired, beautifully elevated building that is gorgeous. And you'll go inside, you'll actually see guns and swords in the wall. Amazing. In the back room, there's this chinoiserie, Chinese-inspired little temple top over this door. So many cool things in there, an awesome stairwell, but the organization, the architectural creativity is really excellent there. You got to check out the governor's palace. So as you look around, basically what you're seeing is a little colonial village. There's a blacksmith shop, there's a woodworking shop, there's the different trades that would have made life real. There's restaurants and taverns and things like that. And so there's also places where government business took place. There's also kind of high style mansions, and there's the simple house and the cottages. And so one, you're going to see a bunch of different styles of buildings. You're going to see wood clad buildings, you're going to see brick buildings, right? You're going to see all these different kinds of elements. But Busch Gardens is right next door. So if you wanted to split time and go, let the kids go ride the roller coasters, then go get them some culture, right? This is totally something you can bring the whole family to. This is totally something that you guys can spend days walking around Colonial Williamsburg. Now, I went on an ICA Drawing Tour. So we would go sit in front of a building and sketch, right? We would go look at things. Now, when you sketch something, when you actually draw something, it gets plugged into your brain and you kind of learn these details. It also causes you to look a little more closely about, how they used to do things. Now, there are 5 things that I want you guys to check out when you go there. 5 kind of unique regional things that were going on that are inspiring and cool. One is the amazing Gable Ends, okay, where the cornice comes off. This rich cornice comes around the corner of the house. It doesn't wrap the corner. There's actually a board that gets dropped down, and the shape of that cornice is kind of scrolled out onto this board. It's a really unique detail. It's a mid-Atlantic colonial detail that's kind of unique to that area. Now, what you're learning about is you're learning about a regional building preference. You're learning about a regional building tool that you can say, if someone says, I love Colonial Williamsburg, I want to build that house, there's a few features you need to make sure that you get in there, and that is the #1 feature. It's so unique, it's so different. Look and count how many there are in those buildings there. I think there's close to 12 or 15, but why don't you guys count and figure out how many different scrolled end details that you can find there. Really unique, really special. 2, I want you to look at the brickwork. I said the same thing, brickwork at UVA in Monticello, but the same thing is true here. We're talking about a period of time where the quality of brickwork is like an 11, right? It's just off the charts. Why? Well, you'll see rub brick, you'll see molded brick, you'll see it's all handmade brick. There are demonstrations where they're making bricks, and this would have been a period where they were, building kilns and making bricks, and so it was because they had the clays in that region. It was a unique thing. So go up to those buildings and look at the different brick patterns that you're going to see there. 3, I want you to look at the siding, okay, and the siding details and how carefully, this is something we don't do anymore, and it's something that I probably should do a video on, but it is the face of the siding. Measure the face, okay? Notice that there is no 10-inch, 12-inch face on these siding boards. They're about 4 or 5 inches, maybe 3.5 inches. Notice that some of these are face nailed. Notice there's a bead on them. But also notice how they stagger and go up the house so that the boards, when they go across, for instance, a windowsill, that the bead dies directly into the windowsill. They don't have to notch out their little thing to go around a windowsill, but it is very carefully laid out. This is something we don't do anymore. Today, when you have snap-in-place sidings and everything gets measured, you end up with a very uniformed face. What they did in their time was they actually measured the wall based on the architectural details. They laid out the siding. So it wasn't a perfect 4 inches or 5 inches or whatever it is. It was, 4 and 15/16 or 4 and, 7/16 or something going up, so that they made sure that the siding, when it hit the architectural elements, worked out in an even pattern. It's beautiful. It's one of those extra little treats that you get when you look at historic buildings as far as that layering and how's everything going out. So that's number 3. Check out the siding. Notice how carefully it's laid out. The other thing is dormers, okay? And there's a couple buildings on Main Street. You're gonna see in this house shutters and dormers. Notice the size of the dormer to the face of the dormer box, right? I've talked to you about in my dormer videos that, it should be 80-90% should be window, okay? And the rest should be the face of the dormer. We get these huge dormers and these little windows inside, and it looks silly. And so you'll see on this a number of dormer details where it's really put together well. 2, you'll also notice a bunch of shutters, and there's some shutters on some storefront and commercial buildings that there are 4 or 5 little leaves that are all hung on one side and that fold all the way across and go all the way around the face of the deal. So just on this building, the shutters and the dormers are a great learning tool as far as, and here you are studying. Don't just go, oh yeah, there's a dormer, okay? Notice the face size of the glass. Notice how the size and the scale compare to the rest of the building. Notice how all those details are coming together. And then finally, don't just stay on the main street. Go back and look behind the houses, because you're gonna see all kinds of gates and gardens and fences, so many different varieties of those things. If you watch my Passion for Craft podcast, I'm doing these drops from my library where I'm giving out, information. One of those drops was on fences. And here at Colonial Williamsburg, you will see some fences and gates that you haven't seen before. So if you got a client that says, I want a white picket fence, okay, which one? Because there are 20. It's not just the same one that you want to be using from. A lot of inspiration, a lot of gardening and backyard, and the proportion and scale of all these things is really wonderfully laid out and really wonderfully done. So there's your 5 things. Go check those things out at Colonial Williamsburg. It is a candy land of amazing, cool architectural details. You'll see some roof details that are done with all wood shingles that sweep a corner, that every piece was like, carefully cut in like a master puzzle maker, putting these pieces in the sweep corner. There's so many fun things that you're gonna see, guys. It is a great place to go with the family. It's a great place to go with a sketchbook, and it is inspiring. And if you're working in that world at all of colonial traditional details, this is the place you need to go. Go check it out, Colonial Williamsburg.